Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar, Techniques to Fully Utilize SolidWorks Inspection. The plan is, I think, to have this webinar be dedicated to features in the SolidWorks Inspection standard package, and then down the road we'll have an additional webinar talk about some features available with the SolidWorks Inspection Professional package. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm in the process of ballooning a drawing. I'm almost done, but there's a few things I need to do, and as I go through this, we'll just talk about the techniques I use and some of the things I do, so you guys can use the same techniques when you're doing your own inspection reports. So to start, I'm going to talk about the help right here. Since inspection came out 2 months or so ago, I've been using the help a lot to get some direction, ideas, and just some general information about the program. And the Contents tab is good for general information. You can just go here and select a certain section. Maybe you want to learn about the characteristic manager, maybe the table manager, maybe some templates, things like that. So it's just a good section for general knowledge about the program. In this case, though, I'm going to use the Search tab because I want to reorder balloons. So I'll just go ahead and search that term there, list topics, and it's going to list two, adjusting characteristics location and reordering characteristics. In this case, I'm going to reorder characteristics, so I'll go ahead and select that and display. Let's take a look at this. It says click and dragging a characteristic in the table manager makes moving a characteristic easy and auto renumbers the balloons to match the new order. So it looks like that's pretty simple. Most of the time you're going to get a pretty decent answer from the help, and in general it'll be a short section like this, and the search terms you've used will be highlighted to make it even easier to find what you're looking for. Let's go ahead and give this a try. What I want to do is reorder balloons 12 and 13 right there. So I'm going to go into my characteristics table here, select characteristic 13 and drag it up to characteristic 12. As you can see, 13 is now 12 and 12 is now 13 right here. So if you guys have questions, things you can't figure out, it's great to start in the help because it's pretty good. It's pretty easy to find what you're looking for. Of course, if you don't find what you're looking for, please don't hesitate to give us a call and we can work through that over a GoToMeeting or something like that. Let's go ahead and move on to some options in the Drawing tab here. First thing I'm going to talk about is the grid. Go ahead and launch the grid. Now the grid is going to be great for large drawings, multi-sheet drawings, and it's going to be really useful to give your inspector an idea of where certain characteristics are on those large drawings. In this case, this drawing is only 2 sheets, so maybe a grid doesn't make sense because it's not a large drawing. But if I put the grid on both sheets here by selecting both light bulbs and hitting OK, what it's going to give me is a characteristic zone column, which is going to give me the location of each characteristic on the drawing so the inspector can very easily locate it. So for example, characteristic 17 is in characteristic zone 2D, which is right here. So again, for large multi-sheet drawings, the grid is going to be a very useful feature to save a little bit of time. Let's go ahead and turn the grid off, so I'll select my light bulbs one more time. Go ahead and hit OK, and the grid is gone. Let's now talk about replace drawing and compare drawing. These are basically the same feature. If you choose to replace drawing, you'll be prompted to compare the drawings before the replace actually happens. If you choose to select compare, it's going to compare the drawings first, and then you can choose to replace or not. So in this case, I'll go ahead and compare. going to select this later revision of the same drawing, D2 rather than A2. And after the comparison completes, we can take a look here to see what's been added or removed. So in this case, the green angle dimensions have been added, and this dimension down here has been moved slightly to here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and accept the replacement. And as you'll notice, we lost a dimension, and this dimension here has moved. What we can do first is go ahead and delete this extra characteristic here that we no longer need. So I'll go ahead and right-click that and select Delete, Balloon, and Characteristic. When I do this, it's going to give me the option to renumber remaining characteristics. In most cases, you'll probably want to do this. If you uncheck renumber remaining characteristics, they're not going to be renumbered, obviously, and they're going to stay the same number that they were before the deletion. I'll go ahead and hit yes here. Notice things have been reordered, but I still have a problem because characteristic 8 is still referring to the old dimension that was deleted, this value 3.206 right here. So what I can do is first use my selection tool right here. It's a right-click selection tool to actually move these around a little bit. What I'll do is get the size right, and then go up here and select Recapture currently selected characteristics. After that, I'll perform an OCR of the selected region right here. And when I do that, you can see that the value is now correct. It's changed from 3.206 to the correct value here. And notice down here it's the same thing. So in cases where you have a later revision of a drawing, it should be pretty easy most of the time to replace the older revision with the newer revision. I will mention that in certain cases you may have problems with replacements. Originally I tried to replace my drawing with this drawing here, and I found that the OCR was having issues with this line running through the 3. So you want to be very careful, make sure that that doesn't happen, and you could easily fix that by just moving the line over slightly so it's not overlapping the 3 there. So keep that in mind. Let's talk about this Bill of Materials tab here. Now I'm using a template for Form AS9 102, which is, I believe, an aerospace standard. And there's a requirement for a bill of materials as well. So what I can do in that case is go ahead and add a drawing, and I'm going to add my bill of materials, this parts list right here. Let's go ahead and go to the View tab. The View tab is where you're going to make just some view options, make some view selections. You can go to 100%, zoom in, zoom out. In this case, I'm going to zoom out a little bit because we want to be able to select this entire thing here. So what I'll do is go ahead and extract. And after I've done that, I'm going to have a property table extraction right here. And what I can do is right-click on the column headers to change them from unassigned to the correct value. So I'll go part number, serial number, and part name. And then go ahead and hit OK. And now I have a bill of materials here that can be included with the first article inspection report. Notice up here that I can quickly jump back and forth between the two drawings, and you can obviously add as many drawings as you want here. You can do multiple inspections at the same time, or compare to just visually rather than using the compare tool. There's a lot of things you can do by adding multiple drawings. Now let's talk about some options right here. You have application options, project options, and then about, which is where you'll find your serial number if you ever need to look that up. First off, with the application options, I can easily customize the display of the characteristic table. So notice if we go to my bill of characteristics table, I have some extra columns over here that perhaps I'm not going to use. So what I can do is go up to Options, Display, and just uncheck things that I don't think I'll need. So maybe I don't want balloon location, and maybe we don't want classification either. Once I do that, notice that they've been removed from the bill of characteristics table here. Makes it a little cleaner, a little more simple, a little easier to read. Notice you can also add a number of custom fields if you'd like. Let's move on to the List tab. So there's several lists included: operations, methods, classifications. And what I'm talking about there is these lists here: operation, classification, method. Now if I want to add custom lists, I can. So what I've done is add a vendor list here and with some values of vendor 1, vendor 2. And to add additional entries, simply go down here, hit the plus sign, and I can put in vendor 3 and then hit OK. And as you can see down here, what we can do is select vendor and then either type in a value or select from the drop-down list. Now, let's talk about the Project Options tab. Now, the general options are where you're going to set your tolerances. Right now, I'm going by precision, but you could also go by range and set whatever you wanted here. These will be used when characteristics don't have dimensions, such as right here. Or excuse me, don't have tolerances, such as right here. Moving on to the Imaging OCR tab. You can change the OCR dictionary font. With this drawing, I noticed I had a little better luck with Century Gothic rather than Standard, so I went ahead and changed that. If you're not having any problems with the OCR, you may not need to change it, but I did see that Century Gothic in this case seemed to be a little bit better. Now some of you may have noticed this third note here with this odd text. What I've done is enabled searchable text on this PDF to show that option in SolidWorks Inspection. So what you can do is go to the Imaging OCR tab and select the Notes text source. What I'm going to do is change it from optical character recognition to searchable text. When I'm done with that, go ahead and go Drawing and Note. What we'll do is go ahead and extract that note. Notice I didn't go all the way around the note. I simply cut through it like this. With searchable text, you don't need to include the entire set of text, you just need to put the box over the text, and because it's searchable, the program will be able to fill in the value easily enough right here. Just be careful that once you've done that, you switch it back to optical character recognition if you're going to use that for further notes. Notice also we have a ballooning tab and an exporting tab. You can make some modifications here, as well as modifications to the export options, including suffixes and suffixes for the Excel file report right here. Right now I have it set to FAIR for first article inspection report. Now notice all these options here are available per characteristic. So for example, if I go to this second sheet here, I have a characteristic that's kind of covering up this other dimension. So what I could do is go down to ballooning and change the position from left to top, or perhaps top left. And that way you can see both dimensions here. Let's talk really quickly about GD&T capture. I'm going to go ahead and capture this tolerance here. What you'll need to do is make a selection here. This is a positional. And then you can extract text from the selected region here. Hit this OCR button again. And if I want, I can fill in other symbols, including the maximum material condition right here. And then A, B, and C. Notice I can make selections here, and if I do that, like I mentioned before, you can customize your columns. So you can group by this column. In this case, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I only have one that is being inspected by the CMM. But type makes a lot more sense. So if I group by this column, I'm going to have dimensions, geometric tolerances, and notes. This may be a good default setting to have because it's pretty easy here to differentiate now between the dimensions, the tolerances, and the notes. At this point, I can go ahead and export to Excel to create my first article.